Okay, welcome back to the Root BSD channel. Today what I want to do is I want to do a rant about misconceptions about computer security and misconceptions and myths about OpenBSD. Now, disclaimer about this rant. My thought process is fallible and it's incomplete. And a lot of these ideas I have at work or kind of when I'm away from the computer, and I try to write them down. But just sitting down and putting this all together, I hope this is coherent and I hope this makes sense. So I'll do my best. All right. So, security. Know your threat model. Now, it's really important if you're going to be interested in cybersecurity, it's really important to know your threat model. You know, how much of a threat is the outside world to you, and what do you have on your computer that a criminal may desire? Because hackers are criminals. Now, a lot of people, they really honestly are more concerned with the privacy aspect of it. Like, a lot of people are concerned about the three-letter agencies snooping in on their computer and spying on them and stuff like that. And I don't see a lot of concern about hackers. But it's important to know your threat model, but also, unless you're securing servers for an IT job, your PC is probably not the target of both the three-letter agencies or cyber criminals or script kiddies. For the most part, they're targeting Windows computers, and especially outdated Windows computers, and they're targeting servers for the most part. So it's important to know your threat model. Now, computer security and good OPSEC they're important. It's good. It's good to have good computer security. You know, honestly, if you're just running an up-to-date version of GNU Linux, you already have a pretty secure computer. You really don't have to worry about viruses. There's the occasional malware, but that malware is generally targeting Linux servers, and it's generally targeting older, out-of-date kernels. So if you're running the most up-to-date version of Ubuntu or Fedora or Arch Linux or anything like that, you're pretty much safe. And it's just good to be smart. You know, use your brain when you're doing when you're using your computer. Use your brain. You know, don't click on phishing email scams. Don't give out personal information. A lot of times, hackers will gain access to your online accounts through social engineering. And you're generally going to target older people, like boomers and stuff on Facebook. But the reason I'm making this rant is because some people get unnecessarily obsessed with cybersecurity for the wrong reasons. Okay, so well, you'll see what happens is they'll send themselves back into the Stone Age, where they not only are they running Linux or they're running BSD, so they really can't get viruses or malware. But they'll send themselves back to the Stone Age in terms of computing for just a fear of some kind of boogeyman, like disabling their Wi-Fi, blacklisting kernel modules like Bluetooth, and disabling the printer kernel module, and doing HTML-only browsing. Now, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but it's really not necessary. For the most part, that's like extreme overkill, and I mean, unless you're a spy, or you're a drug dealer, or a criminal, or you got something serious going on, you really don't need to do that kind of stuff. Now, privacy is good, but what are you really worried about? What are you trying to prevent from spying on you? Because you know, it used to be about big tech Silicon Valley companies tracking us. You know, adware, Facebook, Google, you know, Amazon. But you know, I hear talk about going to extremes to block government agencies, which is fine. I mean, you know, for the most part, it's futile because your ISP records everything you're doing, and especially in the big 5 countries, most of all internet traffic is being backed up to a shadow net, to shadow servers. So everything that we do on the clear net is being exposed anyways and recorded. But honestly, yeah, some of you guys talk like you're drug dealers or something. Like, honestly, like, just relax, you know? It seems like nothing's ever good enough anymore. Some people are just, I swear some people are just so OCD, they're just obsessive-compulsive. And, but at the same time, you guys will carry around iPhones and Androids with you, which are just like the worst spy devices in the world. And but yet when you guys use Linux, you're like paranoid. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a little paranoid, but most of the spying from big tech companies is opt-in. Okay, if you're not using Facebook or the Google Home service or Alexa or smartphones or a lot of the major social media platforms, then 99% of this can be dealt with a good ad blocker like uBlock Origin, or something like the Tor browser or DNS script proxy, WireGuard, VPNs. There's a lot of good options to block the vast majority of the trackers and the spyware that's online through your web browser. Now, obviously, I would say the biggest step is to use free and open source software. If you're going to be using Windows, I guess now it's Windows 11 or Mac OS, or Android or an iPhone, then yeah, there's no guarantee that there aren't backdoors and that stuff, and that you're not being spied on. Especially if you're using Apple products, modern Apple products, they're tracking everything that you do, every app that you open, literally everything. It sends a log to a third-party server that records the IP address, the app that was opened, the time and the date, and all that stuff. And if the third-party server's down, your app won't even open. And that's pretty extreme. So, I'm asking you guys just to use your brain and ask yourself, what am I securing myself from? Am I just being paranoid, or do I want to learn? And there's nothing wrong. I play around with cybersecurity tools just because I want to learn about it, because I'm interested in it. It's interesting to me. There's nothing wrong with that. But I encounter people all the time online that and more in the privacy aspect, that they're unnecessarily paranoid to the point where they're just kind of annoying to even talk to. It's just ridiculous, like certain people will say, I'll say, well, at this point, if you're really that paranoid, just use the Tor browser, because the Tor browser is great. It uses letterboxing by default, it has no script by default, and HTTPS only, and everything's on the Tor network. And then they'll say, but all the major Tor exit nodes are known, so they know when you're on Tor anyways, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, well, you know what, at any point, at some point, you might as well just go live in the woods and not have any electronics on you, because that's the only way you're going to hide from the three-letter agencies. Or, it's the Intel Management Engine. The Intel Management Engine, it's a backdoor to my computer, and it'll see everything I'm doing. And I gotta lever boot everything, but I'm not going to use a ThinkPad. That's crappy. It's too slow. And it's just like, oh my god, I don't know. It can be aggravating. This stuff used to be just so simple. It's just, there's some easy steps. Use free software. If you're really serious, use the Tor browser. You encrypt your DNS. Use a good ad blocker or whatever. You have tons of options. But don't think that there's some kind of boogeyman out to get you. And sometimes some people take it to the extreme. I'm just like, well, what are you trying to do? Are you running some kind of criminal enterprise? Are you dealing drugs or something? Because that's why drug dealers, they're scared about that kind of stuff, and they want to use burner phones and stuff like that. So just be sensible and use your brain when you're learning, when you're doing this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that security and privacy are bad or wrong. I'm just saying, be sensible. And some can fall in the trap of overdoing everything and having the wrong intentions. And it turns you into a basket case, and you lose out on using your computer, the right way and getting things done and just enjoying your computer. It's there to serve you, not the other way around. And then the reason I want to say this is because a lot of people just start getting this elitist attitude over just how they're using their computer and how they're what kind of software they're using, and then they cast judgment on other people. Well, you're using X piece of software that's it's spyware. I get that from people about overusing the Chromium, which is open source web browser, which on OpenBSD is like literally the best web browser. It's the fastest. It generally, when you're running current, video acceleration always works. It has it's very secure. It has a pledge and a veil. I've disabled JIT just in time on my web browser with no side effects no performance loss at all. The only thing that you lose is in-browser games are slow. That some of them work really slow, which I don't care because I don't play in-browser games. But it's not really an issue. That's a good thing. Theodoret said one of the biggest threats to personal computer users or WXRX violating JITs. And if you can do it, if it doesn't bother you, if I didn't see any performance loss, but yeah, disable JIT in Chrome or Firefox. But just drop the elitist attitude, guys. There are literally hundreds of ways to run a free and open source operating system. There's tons of distros. There's thousands of pieces of software. Everyone's doing things a little different. Everyone's running their software stack a little different. And not everybody. And I don't. There's so many people who are doing stuff out there that's just like kind of exotic to me. Like honestly, I've never used a Docker before. I barely know what a Docker is. It sounds like a ch root or change root with extra steps to me. But the most important thing to remember, this is technology, okay? Repeat after me. This is technology, okay? Emotions have no place in the field of study and practice of technology, okay? I just feel like X piece of software is more private and more secure, or it's better, and blah blah. And you're talking down to me over using it. It's like, okay, well, show me the feature comparison. Show me the design comparisons. What's in the source code? Show me the change logs. How many lines of code does it have? Is there a large attack surface, a smaller attack surface? Was PrivSep implemented early on, or was it grafted in after the fact? Those things are important. But people are just like, they want to devolve into this stupid petty tribalism and just go with emotions and whatever. I mean, I guess you could say that the Firefox people always give me crap, and I've used Firefox before. I have no problems with Firefox, but I like to use Chromium, not Chrome, because there's a difference between Google Chrome and Chromium. The Chromium build in OpenBSD is the best working web browser. It has the most features, and it's also very secure. And then it's just it doesn't matter. You do you, I do me. We all do our things differently on our computers. And I'm just talking about just people they just come at it with these wrong intentions and wrong ideas, and it just makes it like I don't even want to hang out with you guys. It makes you guys annoying. Like I just kind of want to be in my own little bubble and just enjoy my computer and learn. Because I like simplicity. I don't have all the free time in the world to just go down all these rabbit holes all the time with computers and software. And also, here's another one thing that really bugs me, and I'm setting this up for another topic, which is myths and misconceptions about the OpenBSD project. Is stop making things up. Some people out there, when they encounter something they hardly know anything about, they just parrot what they have read online, or even worse, they just start making things up just to sound smart. OpenBSD, doesn't have a modern file system. Stop doing this. Okay, maybe we're all a little guilty of this in the past, but we can do a little better. Okay, if you don't really know about the subject matter, don't just start making things up to make yourself sound smart. Okay, I mean, I remember when I first got, when I was new to learning about open source and Linux and computer security, I just thought I knew it all, and then I had to get taken down a notch by some actual real people in the industry. That and I started just lurking and reading, and I read interactions with developers, and that's where I started getting my opinions from, was people that are actually doing this stuff for a living, that actually get their hands dirty and write the code and create the software. So yeah, stop doing this. Moral of the story is just use your brain more and stop repeating tired internet memes and jumping on bandwagons without doing your homework and doing some research first. Now, myths and misconceptions about the OpenBSD project, okay? Hold on, drink break. Okay, so the really important thing that I want to stress to everybody, okay? The OpenBSD operating system is a research operating system, okay? It is not in competition with Linux. It's not even in competition with FreeBSD. The developers make it for themselves, and we benefit from their attention to detail. It's just a group of friends working towards a common goal and direction. Okay? It's made by the developers for the developers, meaning them, the OpenBSD developers. They make it for themselves, and it's just a network of friends that are international, and they meet up during hackathons, and they create this project, and we all benefit from it, those that use the software, and even indirectly, all you guys benefit from it. And a lot of their work is targeted at security and advanced IT, information technology, and networking needs, okay? Their work isn't all targeted just for your entertainment needs. or your niche computer needs, okay? They are not your dancing monkeys. They have been called masturbating monkeys before by Linus Torvalds, but that's another story. OpenBSD directly and indirectly has contributed to your software stack being better. Your software in Linux, Apple, Android, Windows is more secure due to OpenBSD. When OpenBSD started to really ramp up its security hardening in the past, its strict memory management and memory allocation, a lot of third-party open source software started to break. It started to crash. It started to not build anymore. This led to OpenBSD developers and users alike to file all sorts of bug reports to upstream developers that weren't even using OpenBSD. But it caused a lot of bugs to be found and a lot of software to get fixed. And bugs they would have never found before because, the compiler toolchains and the kernels in like Linux and Windows were way more permissive and would allow more of violating kind of memory in certain ways or allocating memories in ways that are not really secure. It caused a lot of bugs to be found in all sorts of software, from Firefox to Chromium to GCC compiler, core utils, you name it. A lot of stuff. Now, OpenBSD is a small project. They have a very small development team. Probably out of all the development teams out there, in terms of, compared to Linux, compared to FreeBSD, and definitely compared to the big proprietary operating systems. So they can't do it all. Okay, the operating system has a very do-it-yourself kind of atmosphere. Sometimes you have to do some problem solving. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. Sometimes you have to dig deep into the documentation and even maybe port some software or write some code. If you want to deploy OpenBSD in your job, you might actually have to start writing some code and start submitting patches so that things will work. And that might be too much for some people. And that's fine. There's always FreeBSD and Linux for you. Those things have had a bigger group of people and more money behind them, and those operating systems have vendors, and they have they're in competition, and they have big sponsors. OpenBSD is not like that. Now, OpenBSD does have some good support from companies. They do get donations from companies like Google and Facebook because those companies benefit from using OpenBSD for security. But it's much smaller. So, you're gonna, if you really want to deploy OpenBSD seriously in a production environment, you're gonna have to roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty. It's not just gonna be, shake and bake, or just everything works the way you want it outside the box. It might not be like that. It might be. It just depends on what you're doing. But for the home user, for the most part, everything should work fine out of the box as long as your hardware is supported. But there are some things that you're going to have to learn. There are some things you're going to have to kind of do some problem solving, and you kind of use your noodle and figure some things out. Things aren't always going to be automatically apparent to you, especially if it's not Linux. Don't try to use it like Linux. It's OpenBSD. It's different. It's UNIX-like. It's a BSD, which each BSD is different. They're complete operating systems, but that's another topic for another video. Okay, the developers don't sign non-disclosure agreements. So a lot of your hardware drivers are available in Linux and FreeBSD because either they're closed source or an NDA was signed for its development and it was funded by a company for a specific reason. So that's why hardware availability is a little smaller in OpenBSD. Actually, it's much smaller in OpenBSD than it is in Linux. So, for the most part, if you want to use OpenBSD, I always recommend just investing in some refurbished computers. The stock, Dell or HP kind of office computers are great. And there are some, in previous videos I've shown you there are some developers that get some more modern, nicer hardware working with OpenBSD, and it's good to, especially JCS. I'll put a link in the description. Always check out JCS. He has some good selections of modern hardware that he has working with OpenBSD, including framework laptops, the Huawei MateBook, I believe, and the ThinkPad X1 Carbon, and he has a fanless desktop computer that has some good specs on it. So there are some good options. You have to think ahead when using OpenBSD when choosing your hardware. You can't just go buy whatever random computer you find at Best Buy or Walmart, or you can't just convert your gaming computer with a NVIDIA card into using OpenBSD. It's not. You're probably going to have a bad experience. Now, Now, the biggest thing is most things that are not available on OpenBSD are not available due to a lack of manpower or money, or it's mostly just people that they're lacking people that are willing to step up to the plate and actually write code for things that probably developers just aren't interested in doing because it's just they don't need it. If they had a serious need for it, they would do it. See, and also I want to say that Theo doesn't run the project like a dictator. I see people typing in, well, Theo just doesn't want it. Well, which is complete nonsense, because for one, where are they even coming from this? Maybe Theo might have given his opinion about something, but when Theo is more interested in the kernel side of things. He's working on the kernel. He delegates a lot of those tasks with userland and ports. He delegates that to other people. And yes, they will not sacrifice security, but if there's a lot of things in ports that are available. They have Electron in ports now. There are a lot of options, but there are certain things like, for example, Bluetooth. Okay, there is no Bluetooth because nobody has stepped up and written good code for Bluetooth. Nobody has written a new Bluetooth driver. Okay, now some people might say, well, yeah, that's because Bluetooth is insecure. Well, regardless of whether Bluetooth is secure or not, the reason there is no Bluetooth is not strictly because of security or because Theo said no. That's not true at all. It's not there because nobody has written a driver for it or stepped up to do it yet. They had a driver for Bluetooth that was ported from NetBSD, and the code was old and it was unmaintained, and that's why they got rid of it. Okay, so Wine. The reason why there's no Wine on OpenBSD, because even the 64-bit, as far as I know, the 64-bit version of Wine still has 32-bit code or something like deep in its core, like in the ELF code. I mean, I'm not super technical to know about that, but there's a reason why it has to do with running 32-bit on x86-64 architecture, which you cannot do in OpenBSD. That does sacrifice security. So, and I think developers said that even if somebody went through the job of actually porting it, and if it was to sacrifice security in any way, they wouldn't have it there. So if Wine ever has just a truly like to the T 64-bit build that doesn't run any kind of 32-bit code, doesn't need multi-lib or anything, then yeah, maybe a port could be developed, and it doesn't even have to be an official port. It can somebody can put it up on GitHub, and boom, you can, not everything has to be run out of the official port tree. You can compile some of your own code on OpenBSD too. What else? Like ZFS. People complain that ZFS is not available on OpenBSD. Like, for one thing, are most of you guys even using ZFS? And like, ZFS is kind of overkill to be using it at home. It makes sense to use it in a production environment. That makes sense. But ZFS, and I'm interested in learning about ZFS. It's interesting. But OpenBSD is not junk because you can't use ZFS. Now, I think it was Tedu Angst. I'm probably sorry, Ted. I'm probably butchering your name. He looked at the ZFS source code. He said it was massive. It was ginormous. It was huge. And it would take a massive effort to port that to OpenBSD. So OpenBSD is not available. For one, nobody stepped up to the plate and ported it or submitted a good port. And two, it's really big. It's really massive, and the devs just aren't interested in it. Honestly, they don't need it. You got Linux, and you got FreeBSD for those things. OpenBSD can't do it all with a small team and stay secure like it does. Now, that doesn't mean that OpenBSD is inferior or outdated or useless, okay? Remember how I was always talking about the toolbox philosophy. Use the best tool for the job. If you need ZFS for your production environment, then use FreeBSD or use Linux. Linux has OpenZFS. Those tools are great. But OpenBSD, okay, so here's the big kicker, the one that got me. Okay, people say, and they, like a parrot, OpenBSD doesn't have a modern file system. OpenBSD does have a modern file system. Listen. OpenBSD just implemented a new file system a little under 2 years ago. It was written by Otto Mirbeek. Okay? It's called the Fast File System 2. They just implemented it. It's new. Okay? I remember when you were updating to 6.7, you had to actually reinstall it to get the new FFS2 file system. Okay, you couldn't upgrade from FFS to FFS2. You had to do a complete reinstall. Okay, so it is a new file system. So how can you say it's not modern when it was just written? It's new. I mean, they've worked all the bugs and kinks out of it, but it's that developer is an incredible developer. He also wrote OpenBSD's malloc memory allocator, which is very powerful, very good. The fast file system 2 or FFS2, it's faster. It uses 64-bit timestamps and block numbers. That means it handles dates after 2038, so it solves the 2038 problem. And it can handle much larger partitions now. You can go up into the petabytes with the fast file system 2. Now, most people aren't really going to do that, but you can. You need a lot of memory if you're going to go up into those sizes. So they say, the developer says that use at your own risk. So I mean, is OpenBSD going to be scaled for a data center or for just some massive operation like Netflix? Probably not. It's not even necessary. The developers they're not using it for that. There are some developers that actually run companies that are using OpenBSD, and I'm sure they're doing things on a much smaller scale. They're not trying to deliver content like that. But most of you people that are complaining about this, you're not even running a company. You're not working for a company that's doing that kind of stuff. You're literally at home with your damn laptop and your PC computer. But yet you want to put down OpenBSD and say all this crap, oh, it doesn't have a modern file system. It's just like, shut up. It does. We just got a new file system. It's called the Fast File System 2. And don't start saying, well, my file system needs journaling. Like you even really use journaling in the first place, or I half the time just wonder if you guys even know what that is. Yeah, we have something similar to journaling. It's called soft updates. So stop saying that we don't have journaling. We have a similar feature to journaling called soft updates, okay? So it does have a modern file system that is very robust. It does exactly what it's designed to do, and it does what it's designed, it does exactly what the designers want it to do. Okay, they didn't design it to do more things because they didn't need those features. Okay, and if you need all these extra fancy features, use ZFS or whatever, or Butterfs or whatever. You can use those things on other operating systems. Just OpenBSD is not inferior because of that. Because you guys always just want it all. Listen, okay. So I have an older ThinkPad with a trash battery that needs to be replaced, and I have accidentally cut off power to this device in the middle of all sorts of tasks, probably about 300 plus times just this year alone. Okay, I'm a little thick-headed. Okay, I've dropped that thing, forgot to plug it in, whatever, many times. And you know what? I've never lost data. I've never had data corruption. Even in the middle of doing things like updating packages or in the middle of processes, never once have I ever had data corruption. Never once have I ever lost data. Never once did the thing just after going through a FS or a file system check, FSCK, did it say, "Nah, you're done. This file system just crapped. Sorry, reinstall." Honestly, I guarantee you, if you get a computer that has compatible hardware, run OpenBSD, you really can never break an installation. I mean, if you did, my hat's off to you, because I've never broken an installation. I see Linux users all the time just break their installations and reinstall and reinstall and distro hop and distro hop and distro hop and reinstall. I never do that with OpenBSD. I'm still using on my laptop. I'm still using the same current installation, and I upgrade snapshots all the time. I'm still using it. It's over a year old now. And the only reason that I had to reinstall it is because I upgraded to an SSD from my old hard drive, and that was a year old. And it went all the way back to when I first got that laptop. So I don't understand why people just keep saying these things and they're just not true. It's just like they're just making things up, or they're just parroting something that somebody else made up. And it's just like, have you even ever used OpenBSD? Have you ever actually used it for lived in it as a daily driver for a period of time? Because I have. I'm making this video right now using OpenBSD. I'm playing a game in OpenBSD. Well, actually, I recorded my 7-year-old playing this game because he really wanted to be in my video, so this was his chance. But yeah, I've never had data corruption. sysupgrade, our upgrade tool, can always start over. Okay, OpenBSD has a built-in RAM disk kernel. So if you're in the middle of an update and something borks, you just boot into the random disk kernel and start over. Package add can always repair partial installations. It can always self-repair if it's interrupted. And it's smart to do backups. We have backup software. We have OpenRSync imports. We have SyncThing. OpenRSync is in base. SyncThing is in ports. We have dump and restore in base. I store my configs on GitLab. I personally just don't need ZFS for my daily drivers. The power could go off. A lightning storm could hit. I'm not losing anything. Nothing is going wrong. My data will still be there. I know because on my laptop that battery has like a 10-minute battery life, and sometimes I forget to plug it in, or I space it, or something happens, or maybe in the middle of the night, I left my laptop on and I kick it, or something, and it disconnects, and I wake up and it was turned off. It powered off, hard power off. Never had anything. Never lost any data. Never had any data corruption. So, the fast file system 2 can do everything that ext4 or NTFS can do, okay? It can't do everything that Butter file system or ZFS can do, but those things have special use cases, okay? Now, using OpenBSD is not always about security, okay? I don't just use OpenBSD strictly for the security because I'm so scared I'm going to get hacked. That's not really the real reason why I use OpenBSD. I use it because it's just a really well-designed operating system. It's very well engineered, very stable, and it's just really reliable. And it's very easy to use. It's intuitive, and it's user-friendly, and it has great documentation, and it's just, everything is just KISS. It's keep it simple, stupid, with a lot of stuff in OpenBSD. On Linux, sometimes, in order to get from point A to point B, you got to do like 15 steps, and the things just seem overcomplicated to me sometimes. Now, I'm not saying it's always that case with Linux, but some things feel overcomplicated in Linux. They feel overdone, or there's just too many options, or too many ways to do things. There's a lot of confusion, or things are just kind of more boiled down in OpenBSD, and there's just a really straightforward way to do, set up your network, set up your window manager, get this going, get that going, set up WireGuard, all this stuff, get your server going. And by the way, I do have a bare metal server now, and I'm going to do a video about it, but I've been kind of busy lately. So yeah, OpenBSD is well designed, it's well engineered, it's intuitive, it's user friendly, and it has great documentation, and it is the best BSD for beginners. Okay, so OpenBSD is not for everyone, obviously. It might not be for you, and that's okay. There are so many options in the FOSS ecosystem, and everyone has different needs, everyone has different use cases, but don't put the project down because of an issue with a port or your favorite piece of software isn't available. I had a guy online that was telling me that OpenBSD was trash because he couldn't use, Android Studio on it. Well, I just want the option, and I'm like, do you design Android apps? Well, sometimes I like to, play around with it. And I'm like, you're not even an Android developer. Why are you putting OpenBSD down because you can't use Android Studio on it? I mean, this mentality is just like irritating to me, And everyone has different use cases, but it's sometimes. And I'm not saying it's you guys, but sometimes these Linux users act like a bunch of spoiled brats. They really do. It's just it almost makes me just I'm ready just to like hang out with Windows users and Mac users. They don't act that way. I recently heard somebody, they put down Lubuntu because of a bug in Network Manager. They couldn't connect with a VPN in Network Manager. So they said, I'm just going to have to wait till the next, sorry Lubuntu, I'm going to have to try again next release. I'm like, that's Network Manager. What does that have to do with Lubuntu? Doesn't Linux have like 10 different ways to hook into wireless or 10 different options for VPNs? And it's just like, it's a deal killer if I can't use my VPN Cisco device. And I'm just like, for one, VPNs are not foolproof, and if you think that you cannot use the internet without a VPN, that's just really strange to me, because VPNs are not foolproof at all. But also, that has nothing to do with Lubuntu, the Lubuntu project. That's a problem with Network Manager. And the fact that you would just give up on an operating system and just distro hop because of a bug in one piece of software that has nothing to do with the operating system itself just shows me that half these people just don't even know what they're doing, and they just spout off at the mouth and just make things up, and it's aggravating. No software or operating system out there is going to be perfect, or you're going to have some kind of software utopia of some sort. Every software is going to have its issue. Every software is going to have bugs. Everything is going to have its pros and cons. Nothing's going to be perfect. There's always going to be a trade-off, okay? You might, with an operating system like, let's say, like Arch Linux or Gentoo, you might have more whiz-bang features and toys and things that you can do, and maybe some things work a little better, but then now you have more attack surface, you have more bloat, you have more bugs, there's more, more things could go wrong. That's why Linux users are constantly reinstalling, just going to a new distro, and it's just, it's strange to me, it's weird. It's like, stick with something and learn it, for crying out loud. And you know what, also, this is free software, it's developed by volunteers. What more do you want? It's free as in beer, and it's free as in freedom. And it's developed by volunteers who put in their free time. A lot of these guys aren't even getting paid to do this. Guys and girls, because there's girls that do this too. But a lot of them they're not getting paid to do this. So, at least they're not spying on you or selling you out like to advertisers or worse, three-letter agencies like Windows and Apple and Android and iOS are going to do. So, just stop spreading false information. Do your homework and stop acting like a bunch of spoiled brats. It's not to my viewers, but it's just to certain people that I encounter on the internet that it really grinds my gears. And if you're worried about security and privacy, that's fine, but do it with a healthy mindset and with good intentions, and don't just be like this weirdo that just, people can't even talk to you because you always have some kind of strange opinion, like you sound like you're a drug dealer. Like you're trying to run the Silk Road, 4.0. It's just like, what are you so worried about? We already got it. We got it really good. These free and open source operating systems, they really don't get viruses. They're really private, and we have a lot of options to even just to jack up the security and the privacy. Or you can run OpenBSD, which has really great security, but it also is just a really great operating system. That's why I promote OpenBSD, because it's a great operating system. It's a great daily driver for home use, for desktop use, or for the server. And it's not for everybody, because some people just have really strange needs, in my opinion, the really exotic needs, and they can never hack it, I guess. I don't know. But I'm a low maintenance kind of person. I enjoy the simplicity and the documentation and the ease and everything. So that's all. That's my rant. I hope you have a great day. Bye.